Bismillahirrahmanirrahim and Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh to my beloved panels and my beloved lecturer. So today I would like to present about my slide. Before I would like to present about my slide, I want to introduce myself first. My name is Syabil Harraz bin Husni Thamrin and my ID is 2022835176. So before I would like to proceed to my slide, I would like to give a title about my topic. So my title of my research is the correlation between motivation and burnout in runners among Nismilan Runners Club. We proceed to the next slide is the overview. Okay, which you can see. I will go through one by one and explain to you guys. So my background of study is motivation is crucial for athletes to stay focused and perform well. According to self-determination theory, motivation ranges from intrinsic motivation, which brings long-term enjoyment and commitment, to a motivation, which increases stress and the risk of dropping out. Research shows that intrinsic motivation leads to better performance and resilience, while a motivation and external pressures can cause burnout, especially in competitive settings. For my burnout, which is the dependent variable in my study, is a psychological condition. It is characterized by exhaustion, reduced accomplishment, and losing interest in the sport. Burnout often happens due to overtraining, lack of recovery, and high pressure environments, negatively affecting athletes' mental health and performance. In Malaysia, athletes face similar challenges. Many show strong intrinsic motivation driven by national pride and community support. However, high academic demands and limited resources often leads to emotional fatigue and burnout. This research aims to explore the relationship between motivation and burnout among runners in the Nismilan Runners Club. By applying global theories to a Malaysian context, this study will contribute to the existing literature and provide actionable strategies to support athlete well-being and performance. Grana et al. 2021, Russell 2021, Zhu et al. 2021. So my problem of statements of problem. The relationship between motivation and burnout is complex. Intrinsic motivation can reduce burnout, but some studies show that highly motivated athletes can still face burnout, especially in high pressure situations. In Malaysia, student athletes often struggle to balance their academic and athletic commitments, which leads to emotional exhaustion and burnout. However, limited research on how motivation affects burnout among local athletes, such as those in Nismilan Runners Club. This study addresses that gap by exploring this relationship to provide valuable insights into reducing burnout and enhancing the motivation. So, this is my research question and objective. There are four for each question and objective. For my first question is what types of motivation influence runner among members of Nismilan Runners Club? For the objective, to identify the types of motivation that influence runner in the Nismilan Runners Club. The second, what is level of burnout in runners among Nismilan Runners Club? The objective, to assess the level of burnout among runners in the Nismilan Runners Club. The third, is there any relationship between motivation and burnout in runners among Nismilan Runners Club? The objective, to examine the relationship between motivation and burnout in runners among Nismilan Runners Club. This lastly of the question, are there any significant gender differences on motivation and burnout in runners among Nismilan Runners Club? And the last for the objective, to analyze the gender differences in motivation and burnout in runners among Nismilan Runners Club. So this is my research hypothesis. There are two: null hypothesis and alternative hypothesis. For the null hypothesis is there is no significant correlation between motivation and burnout in runners among Nismilan Runners Club. For the alternative hypothesis, there is a significant correlation between motivation and burnout in runners among Nismilan Runners Club. So this is my significant of study. There are three: sport practitioners, athletes, and community. For the sport practitioners, coaches and trainers can use the findings to design better strategies that improve motivation and reduce burnout. This includes balancing training intensity and recovery. For the athletes, runners can identify the factors contributing to burnout and learn practical ways to sustain their motivation and well-being. For the community, the Nismilan Runners Club is a vital part of the local community. Healthy and motivated runners inspire others to participate in sports, promoting an active and healthy lifestyle. For my literature review, I will explain about my IV and my DV. My IV is motivation. So for the motivation, motivation is the driving force behind human actions. It initiates, guides, and sustains goals-oriented behaviors, helping athletes stay committed and achieve their goals. Intrinsic motivation fosters long-term engagement, while extrinsic motivation provides short-term boosts. Both plays critical roles in sport. For my DV, which is burnout in runners, burnout can happens when athletes experience mental and physical exhaustion. This can lead to reduced performance, loss of motivation, and disengagement. It's common when athletes overtrain, face high pressure environments, or don't have enough recovery or variety in their routines. This is my conceptual framework, is which is it explained about the domain in the DV and the DV. For the IV, it explain the domain of the IV and the DV. For the IV is intrinsic regulation, integrated regulation, identified regulation, introregulated regulation, external regulation, non-regulation, and motivation. For the DV, reduced accomplishment, sport devaluation, and exhaustion. Next is methodology. Who research design method? What research design method? Sorry, what research design method? Is quantitative design method. Who? Nismilan Runners Club. Age above 18 years old. How to distribute by Google Form and when to collect April until May 2025. For my instrumentation, there are three, section A, B, and C. For the variables for each section, demographic profile, motivation, and burnout in runners. Number of item in each section is 5, 18, and 15. For the scales for each section is for section A we have close-ended question. For section B we have 7-point Likert scales, and section C we have 5-point Likert scale. For the main sources, for section A, researcher. For section B, sport motivational skill SMS2 by Pelletier et al. 2020. And for the section C, we have athlete burnout question ABQ by Gusti et al. 2022. Section B motivation have six domains which are intrinsic regulation, integrated regulation, identified regulation, introregulated regulation, external regulation, and non-regulation or motivation. For section C, burnout have three domains, which are reduced accomplishment, sport devaluation, and exhaustion. For the sample, Nismilan Runners Club has a big community members. There are 235 members overall in this club. Researchers decided to take all the samples in Nismilan Runners Club. According to Christie and Morgan 1970 table, the total of sample size after multiply 20% is 173. 173. For the sampling technique, is this study used a non-probability sampling, which is purposive sampling. For the data collection procedure, there are 5 steps. The first step is ethic approval. Second, ask the permission from head of community members of Nismilan Runners Club. Third step, give briefing to the sample about the study and questionnaire. The fourth step, distribute questionnaire to the sample. And then lastly, collect the questionnaire and the data. For my data analysis, for this research, I use this statistical method based on the research objective. Descriptive statistic, mean, and standard deviation to identify the types of motivation and assess burnout levels among runners. This provides an overall picture of trends and variability in the data. For the Pearson correlation, to examine the relationship between motivation and burnout, this analysis determines whether motivation and burnout are linked and how strong that link is. For the independent test, to analyze the gender differences in motivation and burnout, this test compares male and female runners to see if there are significant differences. So this is my difference. So this is my references. And thank you for listening to my presentation. And I have one motivational quotes, which is just one small positive thoughts in the morning can change your whole day. Thank you and assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Love you all.